I'm here today to present on the vitamins market in China. I am going to focus initially on providing an overview in terms of what's happening in the market, who's buying, why, what, and then we're going to look at some of the emerging trends that we're seeing through our work and through the research done in preparation for today's presentation. Finally, we're going to look at some of the implications that holds in terms of how international brands can approach this market opportunity. So first of all, let me just introduce myself, my business. We are a brand operations partner to companies who are not themselves Chinese, but want to establish a presence and build a strong brand within the Chinese market. We have three core services. The first was how we started. I came from a strategy consulting background, so naturally we started our work around strategy, and that's very much around understanding people, understanding what makes your consumer in China tick, motivates, triggers, etc. The next service that we offer is around building trust, essentially building brands, marketing effectively to create a valuable proposition that's attractive to your customers. And our third area is around sales. So growing with resilience is how we position this, in that sales is an outcome of effective planning and effective execution of building a very powerful brand. So these are the three services that we offer to our international brands in China. And we connect these through something that we call little data. By little data, I refer to the data that is very accessible, it's very present, but a lot of the time it's very difficult to use it, to aggregate it and to understand it. But this is what we specialize in and how we tie together the services we deliver so that the brands we work with have a complete picture of what's happening in their market in China. If you are interested in this market, if you want to learn more about some of the data, some of what other international brands are doing in the Chinese market, I encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn. You can find us at the handle QIVA Global, and this is where we're going to be publishing a lot more of our research and insights, so that if you have an interest in this market, you can learn from what we're working on. So on that note, let me move on to an overview of the vitamins market. Now, in the top half of my screen, I've got some data here that was gathered from open research, and it's a bit out of date. So you can see the 2020 figure was an estimated figure for turnover of vitamins in China. This was back in 2019, this was published. And at that point, the estimated turnover was about 3.7 billion US dollars. Sorry, my phone's just... Below that, what you've got on the bottom left is a graph that economists will like to cite when thinking about the potential of vitamins in China. And it refers to the per capita spend of Chinese consumers on vitamins. Obviously, China is the second largest market in the world, second largest healthcare market, and arguments are made around that per capita spend being a lot of upward potential there in terms of what consumers are going to be spending over time. On the bottom right-hand side, what I've put here is a graph that shows the relevance of different sales channels for vitamins over time. Back in 2013, there was a lot more dominance around pharmacy, but now as we move into 2021, e-commerce has caught up and represents about a third of the market, a third of turnover in vitamins. Now, the vitamins themselves are a subcategory of 保健食品, so health essentially, and they represent about 30% of turnover if you exclude Chinese traditional medicine, which is a very large and growing category in China at the moment, particularly post-COVID. In terms of the most popular vitamins, you have your vitamin E, which is obviously used heavily by women, around sort of reproduction requirements, vitamin C and vitamin A. So moving on from how the vitamins market breaks down into sort of the key most popular vitamins, I wanted to just consolidate and reflect on how vitamins looks as a category versus some of the other categories performing well in China. So I've drawn here a 2x2, very popular in consulting as a way of distilling what's doing what. And on the axes you have growth rate under 10% to over 10%, and then on that y-axis we have market size. So as you can see, the vitamins market is a very large market. Generally speaking, pre-COVID was always characterized as a relatively stable, repeatable business category. It's not traditionally high growing, between 6 to 8% has been the most recent growth projections. And that sits in contrast to some of the newer categories, which are very sexy, such as sports nutrition, weight management, which are growing at a prolific rate, but are in themselves obviously significantly smaller categories. Traditional supplements in the top right hand corner, this is a very large market with high growth rates and has been doing particularly well post-COVID. So on that note, I wanted to bring out what I mentioned at the start of this presentation, which is little data, which is obviously where we specialize in terms of bringing together, aggregating data sets that are very available through e-commerce, such as your customer, your category, your competitors, etc. Because up until this point, we've been showing you open source data, which is obviously very useful for getting a macro view. But what I wanted to do is, obviously it's quite difficult at the moment to get a solid position on the size of this market in the last year. There's been a lot of flux, a lot of change in times of COVID. There's generally a solid consensus that there has been a lot of growth in the vitamins category as a result of COVID, the global pandemic, but there aren't that many reliable sources in terms of actually committing to what that growth has been and the number attached to it. So what I've done here, just to give a flavour of what this could be, and I will caveat this and that there are some assumptions within this, but essentially what I've taken here, I've aggregated some data from e-commerce. So we manage e-commerce operations, and it allows us to comb through that sales data. So the total turnover on Alibaba, which is one platform, well, multiple platforms within one company, let's be exact. So the total turnover during March 20 to April 2021 of this year was 6.3 billion RMB. So I've gathered that data through combining multiple subcategories of vitamins, because obviously on e-commerce you can sell vitamins in multiple subcategories, obviously, just to make life more fun. And I've used some assumptions in terms of the market share of Alibaba based on these categories. So for instance, how much market share of cross-border, how much market share of general trade. And you can see here that the figure, again, this is heavily caveated with assumptions, but the figure this produces is a turnover during this time frame of 5.8 billion US dollars. I think this is a bit high, but nonetheless, if what we know to be Alibaba's market share is approximately correct, it indicates a high growth during the past year, which would corroborate what we're seeing across other health categories as well. What I wanted to do here is, obviously I've just mentioned how that data was accessed, and it's through pooling through different categories of vitamins on e-commerce data. And I'm showing you side by side here the key players in some of those key categories. So on the left-hand side, here are the key players of international vitamins. You can see there's a dominance of international brands here, such as Swiss. You've got Salus, which is our client. Bio Island, all very well-known international brands that are doing very well in this category. On the right-hand side, you have your what we call standard vitamins, and here there's a dominance of Chinese players, though I can see Muscle Tech, and we're going to look at that in a bit in terms of the creeping into vitamins that's taking place from other parallel categories. Before we move away from looking at the sort of macro picture of vitamins, I want to take a quick look at who's buying it. And this is really interesting because I think, had I not known China at this point, one might have assumed that the growing demand for vitamins was being driven in part by age. But something that is very interesting in China is that a lot of the driving force behind this demand comes from younger demographics. On the left-hand side, I've got some Baidu data to share. So Baidu is a very popular search engine. I wouldn't actually say it's the most robust method of seeing who's buying vitamins, because as those who operate in China will know, search engines are used much more scarcely than they would be in Western economies where we rely on Google for everything. That's not the case in China, where a lot of search takes place on social media. Nonetheless, these results corroborate what we find working for other international brands who work in this space, in that the age demographic is heavily stacked towards 20 to 40-year-olds. And as kind of evidence of that trend, you can see on the right-hand side here some images that reflect how Chinese companies in the vitamin space are marketing. And you can notice the age of the consumers being put next to their products as a sort of indicator that this is a huge market opportunity in China, targeting young consumers. We recently wrote a blog about a phenomenon called punk health, called 朋克养生. And this is all about how in China you have a large community of people who are very aware of the benefits of looking after their body, eating health supplements, eating their vitamins, but by the same token, work very hard, play very hard, are driven by enormous pressure. And it's led to this phenomenon called punk health, which to a certain extent explains some of what we're seeing here in terms of this demand. So if you are interested in learning more, please do look at our LinkedIn for that recent blog. In terms of the gender tilt, there is a 60% tilt towards women, 40% men. Now, if we continue to look at this demographic of 20 to 40-year-olds, I wanted to try and distill what's driving that demand in terms of the triggers. And there are some key ones that come up a lot where we're looking at what's motivating consumers wanting to buy vitamins. One of them is skin health being a significant one. And in the column next to the concern, I've written down some of the key tags. Tags is relevant because we're going to look at this in a moment in terms of one of the trends being the functionality of products and how consumers search. But tags here references when a consumer is looking for a treatment, for instance, for skin health, they'll often use tags to find it. And that's why, as an e-commerce operator, you too will use the tags being required. So, for instance, for skin health, they'll be looking for anti-sugar thought to make you age faster, anti-aging, skin whitening, etc. And you can see in the main ingredients, we've listed the ingredients that consumers in China will generally associate with delivering solutions to those key concerns. So I'll just pick out a few. But for instance, skin health, vitamin C is a key vitamin in this. Where it comes to sleep issues, you've got vitamin B. If you want to look at this again in more detail, please get in touch and I'm happy to share. But this provides a sort of synopsis of these key concerns and which supplements and vitamins consumers will generally associate with helping them solve them. So on that note, I wanted to then look at some of the emerging trends that we're seeing. And these are relevant not just to vitamins, but I'd say more broadly across health as well. There are four, there are many, but I've chosen four to go through today, and obviously they're all very interrelated. So the first is the threat from parallel categories, where either they are getting licenses to enter into the supplements vitamin space, or whether they are using vitamins as an add-on sort of USP to steal market share. The second trend is around beauty being something that you eat rather than something you apply to your body. The third is around function, and this is a really important one for international brands who are looking at the Chinese market with a view to entry or even looking to grow, in terms of understanding how consumers view you and how you fit into their lives. And then finally, we're going to look at the rise of the healthy snack. So first of all, this is about growing competition from adjacent categories. And you see this predominantly in two categories, the pharma companies and food and drinks. So on the left-hand side, I've given an example here of a company called Ma Yinglong. Ma Yinglong is a very well-established old company in China, traditionally famous for their hemorrhoid treatment. Now in 2016, they did what many pharmaceutical companies are doing in China, and they applied for something called 蓝帽子, so blue hat. Blue hat status is what allows a company to sell a supplement in China. And they, like many others, are applying for blue hat status to be able to challenge and create more competition in this vitamins market. On the right-hand side, we've got some examples of food and drink brands. Here you've got Being Mate, or Beiyinmei, which again is a very well-known product brand in China, famous for their nutritional formula, their infant formula. They likewise are increasingly introducing products that play to this audience who are looking for the health supplement vitamin to supplement daily life and daily health. So they've got, for instance, DHA composite, etc. So these are just two examples where we're seeing a rising level of competition for your traditional marketing vitamin sector. The second emerging trend is around function. And this is a trend that I see across all retail in many ways, but particularly in health, where people look for solutions. Whether this is being driven by an increasing dominance of e-commerce, I'm not sure. But I've always noticed this as a slight contrast to how traditionally it might happen in Western markets. So here on the left-hand side, we've got a list of brands and their product names. These are well-known health brands in China. In the third column, you can see the product name on Tmall. And notice that it's all about function. It's all about the solution that they deliver. And that's because of the way consumers search in China, which is function first. Generally, unless a brand is incredibly well known and the solution is understood, consumers will take a function first approach to searching. And obviously this is very relevant when you think about how you are marketing yourself, how you're positioning yourself. You need to understand what your customers are seeking, where their pain exists, and then how you speak to that pain in terms of the functional solution that you're delivering. On the right-hand side, we've shown some results of a survey undertaken not by us, but by another company, looking at some of the popular, I wouldn't say popular, but the most cited health concerns of Chinese consumers. And again, much like the slide we looked at previously, skin problems, sleep, gastrointestinal are some of the key issues that get cited a lot by consumers in China who are concerned with their health. The third trend is about beauty. This is really interesting for me. We work with a company called Floridix who produce an iron supplement. And this was when I first noticed there was a transition taking place around how beauty was perceived. Whether this is in response to a global pandemic where we've all had fewer opportunities to put on makeup and go out, I'm not sure, or whether people are taking a more interest in the manner, how they look after their bodies. But it is really apparent that consumers in China look to health as a beauty solution increasingly. And again, we found certainly when we first started working with Floridix, there was when we were looking at the data, little data, there was a disproportionate linkage between red lips, white skin, and iron, which again I think is a growing theme. On the left-hand side here, just to sort of bring this to life, we can see some data from Tmall, which shows the size of this oral beauty market and how it's growing over time. This middle section shows some of the key areas that people are looking for solutions for, essentially, and looking for health or vitamin solutions to manage this beauty area. So, for instance, moist skin whitening. This is where vitamin C really comes into play. And then anti-aging, of course, which is always a big discussion topic in China. And on the right-hand side, we're showing here the dominance of the subcomponents in this oral beauty category. And again, I've labelled vitamin C there as the second most popular. So the fourth emerging trend is around snackable health. And this is a very pertinent to the work that we do, because we work with two companies who really reflect the dichotomy of snackable health. You have companies like Grenade, who are very much about removing the badness from snacking, having convenient and guilt-free snacking. We also work with a company called Bjorg plant-based milk, a French brand, who are all about adding the good into what you eat. I don't think it's as black and white as that, but nonetheless, there is a slight black and white dichotomy in how snackable health is approached. But I think it's a very relevant emerging trend for vitamins players. I've used some examples of Chinese companies to just bring this to life. So on the removing the bad, you have things like low sugar, low fat, no sugar, low calories. These are all really high in demand sort of USPs sought by Chinese consumers. On the top left, we have a company called Weilong, who produce a plant-based version of cow stomach. This is actually very popular in China. Haven't tried it myself, but its core sales points around low fat, low sugar, low calorie, etc. Below that, slightly less popular or well known, but nonetheless pertinent to demonstrating this phenomena, is Dai Xiao Di, who do a vegetable snack, not deep fried, no additives. That is their core claim to why they're a healthy snack. The top right-hand corner, we have an example of adding good. This is all about adding probiotics, extra protein, high fiber, organic, etc. And this company is called Sandra Songshu, which is essentially 3 squirrels. This company was set up based on the personalities of 3 different squirrels. And so everyone in the company mimics one of these different personalities of squirrel. And they produce these snackable nuts and fruits with probiotics. And then below them, you have a company that produces dried orange peel called Hongyuan with added vitamin C. So the snackable market is a growing and very interesting market, and we're seeing vitamins players either come into this play, jumping on this theme to capture some of the interest in snacks, but we're also seeing companies who are strapping on vitamins to their propositions to further differentiate their offering. So as a wrap up, there are 4 big emerging themes that I think are particularly relevant to vitamins at the moment. There's this blending effect between categories as people recognize the demand for vitamins and health supplements and want to capture some of that traffic, either by entering directly, i.e. getting blue hat status, or by actually adding vitamins into their propositions to add to their USPs. The second trend is around beauty becoming an oral thing rather than something that's applied to your skin. The third trend is about function, how function leads in how clients discover your products. And the fourth trend was about how health is becoming snackable. So the implications, just to round up this presentation, the implications for international brands, I think, are threefold and sit very much in line with how we structure what we do. So the first is you really do need to understand what's driving and triggering the motivations of your customers. If you're already in the market, it doesn't preclude you doing this. But the best way of doing this is through using little data that looks at what your customers are buying, what they're saying, what your competitor products are offering, because this allows you to clearly define how you're going to deliver something that serves your customers' pain points. The second thing is around brand building. Obviously, China is a very insulated market. What is apparent in a Western market may not be visible or accessible in China. So brand building is not normally an exercise in working with the biggest KOL. It's a meticulous process of building an authentic and trustworthy vision of what you are bringing to the market in terms of your solution for that particular functional pain point. The third is around sales being a product of effective strategy and brand building. Obviously, sales is absolutely critical, but it's been my observation that a lot of companies approach this first in terms of finding their Tmall store, establishing a JD store. Actually, all of these things, of course, are critical, but the success and the resilience of the sales that come from that are very much built upon knowing your audience, knowing your category, and going through the correct approach in terms of how you build the demand for what you're trying to offer. If anyone has any questions following this presentation, please do get in touch. You can find us on LinkedIn via the handle QIVA Global, or you've got my mugshot on an email there. Please do ping me any questions. I'd love feedback. Any questions whatsoever, do get in touch. And it's been a pleasure to present. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kihiro Miyazaki from Japan. Today, my theme is to introduce Ubiquinol, a super supplement for healthy life. Maybe you know very well that the Ubiquinol has so many various functions. For example, that reducing fatigue and the stress tension relief, also maintaining walking ability. Now, the very much remarkable function is the fertility and enhancement. Also, the oral environment. Also, regeneration of cell, immune aging. So the next page, please. Yeah, there is a big topic in China. CoQ10 will be registered on the 1st of June as a food supplement ingredient. And the Chinese government indicates us that the every day daily dose is 30 to 50 milligram. And it's astonishing to know that they indicated effect enhance immunity and antioxidation. It's during the pandemic of the COVID-19, it's a very much interesting and unique effect. Now, let me explain history of the coenzyme, also the current status, and our challenge and solutions. Today's my presentation outline is following that we say that the healthy food ingredient attribute for two type of the ingredient. One is water soluble hydrophilic and fat soluble lipophilic ingredient. And the water soluble ingredient easily absorbed by the body. The alignment for the body condition is its main function. Fat soluble ingredient, although it is recognized that it is the function of the strengthening the body and preventing aging, but it is difficult to absorb in the daily diet. Even if these ingredients are directly ingested, they are still regarded as foreign substances in the body and excreted as they are. So we must take tentative measures or eternal measures. Thus, now we take a soft capsule, which are coated by the seamless gelatin containing dissolved lipophilic ingredient in vegetable oil under utilization of the fat absorption system in the body through bile salt emulsification. But the efficacy of this system decreases along with aging. So an adequate absorption rate cannot be expected for middle and older aged people. So our proposal of we established new technologies that is the artificially emulsified lipophilic ingredient, water soluble powder, are newly developed and applied to health ingredient. The absorption rate is significantly improved. Japan is the forefront runner of the world in this technology. Next page, please. Now here is the simple history of the coenzyme Q10. 1957, coenzyme Q10 discovered. And in the 1970s, Nissin Pharma, Japan successfully launched commercial production, and Kaneka Asahi followed with different processes. Then in the 1990s, started promotion in dietary supplement in North America and EU. Japanese suppliers dominated world market with the 55 metric ton per year sales. 2001 opened food supplement market in Japan, and the first boom peaked out on 2004 and 5. 2005, Chinese suppliers started to export to North America and other markets globally with the strong cost competitiveness. 2010s, Kaneka Japan started Ubiquinol sales, and Petro Euro-Asia, also Japanese company, launched Ubiquinol water-soluble powder. 2020, last year, Japan Preventive Medicine started promotion of the Ubiquinol tablet in global market. Now total 1,000 metric ton of Ubiquinol and 200 metric ton of Ubiquinol locates in the global market. Next, please. Let me explain more about that the coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 has two types. One is ubiquinol and another is ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the active form of the coenzyme Q10, and color is the white. And the 80% in the body is the ubiquinol. Ubiquinol has a function of the antioxidant, also the energy generation. Solubility lipophilic. Cost per weight is rather higher, $1,000 per kg for the bulk volume. Supplier is Kaneka Japan. So far, only Kaneka can supply. Stability, not good, easy to be oxidized. Formulation, main formulation is now soft caps. Process is the yeast fermentation. And clinical data, there is sufficient clinical data helps you. And how about the ubiquinol? Ubiquinol is the inactive form of coenzyme Q10. Color is yellow, and the 20% in the body is the ubiquinol. And unfortunately, both antioxidant and energy generation function don't have. But after enzymatic conversion, it could be useful. Also, the solubility lipophilic price is the $500 per kg for the bulk volume. Now the supplier is the Kingdomway, Central, and NHU, all in the Chinese manufacturer. Stability is stable, and this is the main formulation, also soft caps. They are processed bacteria fermentation. Also, they have the enough clinical data. This is ubiquinol. This is ubiquinol, white and yellow color. Then I tell you that the ubiquinol has a dual function. Energy generation in mitochondria, also the antioxidant in the cell. However, ubiquinol should be required an enzymatic conversion process in the body after absorption, but it will be difficult for aged people due to less power. Otherwise, stays at an inactive form in the body and excretes. Please, next, please. So we make a big challenge to overcome this problem and find out the two big breakthroughs for the better supplementation. Let me repeat that. Which problem? Problem, aged people desire to intake coenzyme Q10 does not have a sufficient powerful system to convert ubiquinol to ubiquinol. and an absorption system to utilize a bile salt for a fat and lipophilic ingredient. Breakthrough 1. Kaneka successfully launched Ubiquinol on 2010, 2010. It was great improvement for CoQ10 supplementation. Then no need to support of enzymatic conversion system on Ubiquinol any longer. This is one. The second breakthrough, Petro-Eurasia, Japan, successfully developed Ubiquinol water-soluble powder in 2012. Then Ubiquinol is absorbed sufficiently without the support of bile salt absorption system. This figure, we presume together with us Kaneka, Japanese market, current Japanese market. Total market for Coenzyme Q10 products, 10 billion Japanese yen, equal to the 100 million US dollar. And Ubiquinol occupies 70%. Ubiquinol rest of the 30%. And formulation, soft gel capsule currently 90%. Other formulation is 10%, but grows year by year. FFC, functional food claims 36 products of the Ubiquinol. However, only one product of Ubiquinol. This is one of the beverage home and tablet, and this is a conventional soft capsule home. Also, the Ubiquinol has a unique clinical data. We say that an immunity booster. Ubiquinol clinical trial result, it was observed that all stem cells were activated by after intaking of the Ubiquinol. One is the increased immune cells. It was found that the concentration of T cells in the cell increased, and the number of immune cells increased significantly. We can say that the Ubiquinol has a function of the enhanced immunity. And another interest immunity booster system is the increase the number of antibodies. When the hepatitis B vaccination is combined with intake, the total number of the antibodies created is significantly increased. Oral supplement effect. We can say that the oral adjuvant effect. So in detail, if you need, please let me know. Then let me explain our product, Ubiquinol tablet, produced by the Japan Preventive Medicine. The artificially emulsified fat-soluble ingredient, water-soluble powder. We have successfully processed a solid preparation tablet with achieving the 3 times higher absorption rate than the conventional soft capsules. This is a AUC graph chart. This is a concentration on the plasma, and this is a time passing. You can calculate bioavailability according to the proportion of the area. Next, please. This product is we can say that the pure Japan-made nutrient. Bulk Ubiquinol comes from Kaneka. Water-soluble processing, Petro-Eurasia in Japan. Also, the final product, Japan Preventive Medicine, that we can say that pure Japanese product. Next, please. And let me propose healthy aging by intaking of Ubiquinol tablet. What is the mitochondrial exercise using Ubiquinol? high efficacy energy production in mitochondria keeps you healthy. Prevent the aging of immune cells. Also prevent virus cell infection and virus reproduction. It can be used as an oral supplement to help creation of antibodies before and after vaccination. One of the adjuvant effects. Our product is the 60 tabs per bag, and the Ubiquinol is 50 milligram per tab. Recommended dosage is the 50 to 100 milligram per day. Indicated price is Japanese yen 3.3 thousand per bag. Next, please. Also, our water-soluble technology provides us the cost competitiveness. What does it mean? Let me explain that. Since that the water-soluble powder mean that this tablet, using this tablet, it has 3 times higher absorption ratio. Then the dosage aspect, 50 milligram water-soluble powder, this is tablet form, is equal to the 150 milligram of the soft gel capsule. Now the famous brand of Ubiquinol soft gels in the market, we checked out that the 100 milligram contain in the soft gel caps. Total 30 caps. Market price is the 3.9 thousand Japanese yen. That means the calculated in the daily cost, 150 milligram per day equal to the 195 Japanese yen per day. Our product, Ubiquinol tablet, one tablet is 50 milligram, contain 150 milligram, and total 60 tabs. Market price is 3.3 thousand bucks. It's calculated merely 55 Japanese yen. So the almost one horse. Next, please. Now we can provide, we can sell following 3 kinds of the product. One is the final product, Ubiquinol tablet, this one. Then second is if you wish to have, if you have the tablet make production equipment, etc. In this case, we can also provide bulk basis. Then also provide that the water-soluble powder itself. So depending on your requirement, let us know. We can recommend best fit product. So finally, let us do the recommend well-being life together with the Ubiquinol supplementation. Currently, Japan somehow one of the practice say that the combination of the mitochondrial practice exercise and the intestinal exercise of traditional fermented food. This is simply saying that probiotics and the mitochondrial exercise. Mitochondrial exercise, mitochondrial activities, immune cells, and the intestinal exercise brings healthy intestine and enhance immune system. This is combination. Next, please. Our suggestion of the best 7 practice of the mitochondrial exercise. Intake, Ubiquinol, light sport, enough sleep, warming, well-balanced diet, and keep smiling, and keep less stress. This is the activate mitochondrial activity, and you can enjoy that mitochondrial exercise. Next, please. Also, this is probiotics. Probiotics mean that intake of the fermented traditional food, then the make intestinal condition make well. Then in this case that this is active and the brain and the intestinal signal exchange. It is also helps for your immune system improved. Next, please. So let us again saying that the enhance immunity by combining intestinal exercise and mitochondrial exercise. So the intake, when intake that Ubiquinol, also they take care about the daily diet. Next, please. The time just to the main presentation already just ended, but the takes that a little bit less time. Let me explain more about that the absorption system of lipophilic ingredients. When you intake the fat and the lipophilic ingredients, the throughout stomach, then the once reach to the duodenum, then the duodenum send a signal to the brain. Then received this signal, brain immediately instruct gallbladder to excrete bile salt. Then the bile salt in the intestine, bile salt forming up emulsion. After that, it can be absorption. But once bile acid not forming emulsion promptly, in this case, very regret all of the ingredient throughout excreted. But our water soluble powder, because of the intake, before intake already form up emulsion form, then they come to directly in the intestine, then the already in the water soluble body, then they easy to be absorbed. That is the somehow the system of the lipophilic ingredient absorption system. Next, please. For the further information about Ubiquinol, please browse that the Kaneka lab, which is Kaneka browse. There is so much content of scientific content helps you more further understand. Yeah, thank you. That is my presentation today. Thanks for your listening and thanks for your joining. Thank you very much.